Hi, my name's Ed, Chief Marketing Officer here at CareerFoundry, and today I've been told I'm going to be reviewing 3 digital marketing portfolios from around the web. Now, in my role as Chief Marketing Officer, I've interviewed for a broad range of different jobs, whether it's designers or developers or product managers or marketers. And I find with a lot of the different roles in tech, such as designers and developers, they almost always submit a portfolio with their application. And with digital marketing applications, typically it's more like 20 or 30%. But those 20 or 30% have a huge advantage over their peers, because obviously I can dive into the portfolio and really see the kind of work that they've done in the past and the kind of experience that they've got. So for me, this is a shift that I'd really like to see in the digital marketing industry, that every time I get an application, there's also a portfolio attached, exactly the same way that as if I get an application for a UX design role or a UI design role, then there's always a portfolio to reference. So that begs the question, what should an ideal digital marketing portfolio actually contain? Well, I think it can be broken down to 6 things. First of all, who you are. So this means a specific sentence about your current professional focus and maybe a couple of sentences about your professional background. Secondly, the kind of skills and services you provide. Thirdly, the kind of tools and systems that you're acquainted with or an expert in. Next up are samples of your work, and this could be from your educational background, it could be from work that you've done for a freelance client, it could also be work that you've done in-house potentially. And this generally makes up the body of the portfolio and is the most important thing, as it's the thing that the hiring manager and potential clients really dive into to see how you work. Next up is proof points, and this can also take a few different forms. It could be the actual marketing collateral that you produced during these projects. It could be testimonials from happy clients. It could also be data points from successful campaigns, or it could be a mixture of all of those things. And finally, the contact details. So how is a hiring manager or a potential freelance client ideally going to reach out to you? So when I'm reviewing portfolios, regardless of the profession, whether it's a UX designer or a web developer or a digital marketer, then I'm always looking for 3 things or 3 principles that are fulfilled. One of them is that it's purposeful, another that it's specific, and another that it's clear. So what does purposeful mean? Purposeful means that the applicant knows the kind of company and the kind of role that they're aiming for. Are they aiming for a freelance role or an in-house role? And the company that they're applying to, are they looking for startups and small companies or established companies? Because this is really going to change the nature of the portfolio. If they're going for a small company, for example, you're probably going to want to show off a broad skill set. And if you're aiming for a more established company, they're going to be looking for much more specific, more fragmented roles and expertise in those roles. So the second principle is being specific. You want to be specific about the exact skill set that you provide and the value that you provide, and potentially also about the industry that you want to get into. So whether that's edtech or e-commerce. Again, these factors really influence the kind of messaging that you have in your portfolio and potentially the kind of projects that you want to showcase as well. And the final principle is being clear or clarity, just making sure that the portfolio is presented in a nice, intuitive and clear way, and that it can be readily navigated by the hiring manager. If there's any complexity or unnecessary complexity there, the hiring manager is going to bounce and is going to start looking at other portfolios. You have to consider they might have 60 or 70 to review for any application. So now you know as a hiring manager what I want to see in a portfolio and the kind of principles that underlie the production of a good portfolio. Let's dive in and look at our first sample. Okay, so I have a CareerFoundry blog post here entitled 9 awesome marketing portfolio examples to inspire you. What should I do next?
Just scroll down to the 3rd one.
So 3 of 9, okay. Then Diana Mayfield.
Yeah, click on that and just review it.
Okay, so I've hit the homepage or the index page. Here I'm seeing emotional analytics. I mentioned the kind of purpose and specificity is important. Here, like I'd say, emotional analytics, I mean, marketing is all about marrying the creative side with the analytical side in order to do an impactful and good job. This really alludes to that, so it's kind of speaking to my soul as a marketer. And then underneath, I guess we get a bit more specific. I'm a SaaS copywriter who discovers what converts, so immediately I'm told SaaS, so software as a service, copywriter who discovers what so conversion-based copy, so we're probably talking about website copy or ad copy. And who discovers what converts. 2 ways of doing that potentially is kind of upfront with qualitative research or off the back of testing. So this is providing me with quite a lot of information. And underneath I have some proof points, so some company logos, I guess, of the companies that she's worked with. And here's a really nice mix actually, because Drift is a company that's very well known within the marketing industry. So there's a chatbot who kind of invented this category of conversational marketing. And the other companies I'm not aware of, I think, but I have to say that it's a really good thing to have a mix of companies, some that are very well known and some that are lesser known, because there's a company like CareerFoundry that's 120 people or so. We're not obviously at the size of Google or Facebook, and if you only see those logos that kind of might leave you a bit starry-eyed, then maybe we doubt whether this person will have the interest of working with us. So this is a good start. If we scroll down, we have this aspect that I think is super important to include in the portfolio. Is who are you? And here, the simple way of doing it, obviously, is to provide a photo, a few lines of the professional background. We don't have that so much in terms of the professional background, but we have the image, and then we have a kind of opinion or bold statement to open up, which is pretty eye-catching and obviously befits the copywriter. So listen up, copy is powerful, the ability to disrupt your prospects, stop them in their tracks. Maybe this already biases me towards a certain kind of industry, so it's more kind of attention grabbing, potentially kind of aggressive messaging. So I'm thinking more e-commerce or something like that, as opposed to our industry, which is edtech, which is more about kind of gradual trust building and more of a softer approach typically. Scrolling down, then we have the skills and services provided. So as I mentioned, this is something that's kind of bread and butter for the portfolio. And here actually, looking at this is a little bit surprising because we're talking about SEO web copy. So this is longer form. Also on the right-hand side, we have guides that generate leads. So again, longer form. And then in the middle, we have outbound messages that get responses. So here, this is potentially more conversion-oriented copy. So here, for me, based upon the kind of messaging at the top of the page versus what's here, there's a little bit of a conflict. And I'm realizing now that the services that she offers are broader than I first expected. And as we scroll down further, perfect, we have proof points. Also, VP of Marketing, someone with status and credibility. We scroll down further, then we see actually what look like video overviews of the projects that she's worked on. Maybe I can click into one of those in a moment, but that's fantastic because it can really show you a lot of context and a lot of depth and potentially the kind of thinking that went into the different projects. Ultimately, through the portfolio, you want to see who this person is, but you really want to see and understand how they work to get an idea of whether you would work well together. And then obviously you want to see the results of the work, and all these things can be very readily covered and communicated through videos. And then finally ending up with the social icons here. One point is that I do actually often click through to the social profiles because I'm kind of interested, especially as a digital marketer, whether this person has built up a personal brand. And also I think it's a bit of a negative sign if this person has their social media profiles featured, but has done very little there. So it's really important, just as a very specific example, to have that attention to detail throughout your portfolio. Everything that is a link could be clicked on. So keep that in mind. Then if we scroll back up again, we have work samples, case studies, testimonials. I'm guessing it'd be interesting to see what the difference is between work samples and case studies. I'm guessing case studies is much more clearly structured and shows her process. If that's the case, then if both is featured, that's really, really good. And on this page, we have a lot of different video overviews. One thing I'd recommend here, if you're building out your portfolio, is just to give the hiring manager a bit more direction and a bit more hierarchy. So what's the most important or most impressive project? What's the project that you're most proud of, and put that front and center. And then if you want to feature more projects, I don't think you need more than 2 or 3 because a hiring manager isn't typically going to go into more than that. But just put them a bit lower down in the hierarchy, however you want to treat that in your UI. And maybe provide a few sentences to explain why this headline project is the headline project. Then finally, if we click through to the case studies, perhaps if we click through to one of these, I would say for conversion copywriting for travel perks, that's been featured a couple of times. And then we open up a PDF. And in this PDF, we have increasing conversions for Europe's fastest growing SaaS startup. So super interesting. Again, this suggests that she's used to working within a SaaS environment within a high growth company, really conversion focused. So that's really good background for coming into other growth oriented companies. And then we have a description of the company, a description of the problem, and then the outcome. So what happened afterwards. And really good, we also have actual metrics. So what was actually achieved by making these changes. That's fantastic because in any marketer, you really want to see the impact of their work and an understanding of that impact. So what action led to this impact. So this is really good. And just one takeaway here is that I think any case study needs to include a number of different steps. It needs to include the brief, maybe a bit of information about the company that you're working for as well. And then it needs to include the required outcomes of that project. And then basically the method and approach that you took in order to fulfill those required outcomes. Then obviously the results, so that could be marketing collateral, that could be the kind of images that you've generated or video content, but it could also be the ads that you ran, or as we've seen here, the conversion copy implemented on the website. And ideally, and what's also really, really good here, the results as well of those changes. So just to wrap up on that portfolio, I thought it was really strong. If I were looking for someone to improve the conversion copy across the website, she would be a great either applicant or in-house for sure, given all the experience with different companies, or a great freelancer to work with. Okay, so that's the first portfolio reviewed. What should I do next?
Which number do you like more, 5 or 6?
I mean, we just did 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. So could do 6.
Yeah, go ahead and click on it and just review it for us then.
Although 5 does look quite cool, it's a nice retro image there. Yeah, anyway, let's move on to 6. That's Victoria. Games industry digital marketing manager. So anyone in the games industry, obviously immediately this is going to appeal to. So if you're hiring or applying to a specific industry, then just dropping in something like that right at the top immediately thinks, okay, this is the kind of person that I'm looking for. This is more specific and therefore more relevant than someone that just puts digital marketing manager if I'm in the games industry. And then we have the image, so answering that question of who you are to an extent, and a headline, making people disable ad block 1 ad at a time, which is, has some personality to it, and has the highlights on disable ad block. These are all kind of, it shows a bit of creative copywriting that captures attention. It points to a kind of particular pain point of the digital marketing industry, and very likely specifically or more so for the games industry. Again, no expert in the games industry, but I can imagine that's a bit more of a problem there. So let's scroll down further. This is me, well-traveled with experience of living in multiple countries. So then we have, I guess, a lot of cultural awareness, and diversity is what inspires my work. I love all things color and art. So they're really just setting the scene. And here again, the different areas that I'm guessing she works on. We have that context. Scrolling down, I create engaging content and empower companies with creative strategies. Here we're still at quite a broad level, so I'm still asking myself, what's her area of focus and what value can she provide really specifically to my business. Here again, we have the marriage of creativity and data analytics. Really pleasing to see that kind of dichotomy or assumed dichotomy coming up over and over again. Do more than beautiful copy, so more than a copywriter, study, measure, continuously improve. Okay, so you have that analytical aspect. Also referencing the kind of cyclical process of digital marketing and of so many tech roles as well. We can see projects and collaborations. Again, here we have a few logos, a bit of low contrast there on the logo on the background, and some blog posts as well. I always think it's cool if there's some kind of content production. Also, not only does it show a kind of interest in content production and in maybe building a personal brand, but it also suggests that this person is trying to kind of stay at the forefront of their industry and maybe even be a bit of a thought leader in the industry as well. The navigation isn't quite as clear, I think, as on the previous site. Always good, I think, to have that top nav because people are so used to going there to get where they need to go. If we enter the portfolio section, you can see some different marketing collateral, and then you can see the various different projects that she's worked on. Not so much hierarchy here, a little bit like in the previous portfolio as well. Always good just to help the hiring manager and navigate them where they need to go. Let's click on the slightly kind of distorted Facebook logo here. My Finally Financial, creating social media templates. So this is something that would be super useful for a lot of companies to facilitate their social media output. And if we dive into the first page of the case study, then it gives some context as to the aim, so the required outcomes. They were looking for someone to not only produce these templates, but also to generate a strategy and do keyword research. To be honest, like with the connection between keyword research and what looks like Instagram content is potentially a bit tenuous versus other ways of doing research for Instagram that might be a bit more impactful. Looking at what other content is really performing well in that particular category, what's gaining traction, which formats are working, might be an approach that I would take. And then if we scroll down a little bit further, you see the different kind of templates that she's created. What I like here, I mean, everything looks very consistent. There seems to be a pattern behind what she's doing. And then she has a few words here about the kind of strategy that she implemented. And the result here is kind of very generic. The client was happy, completely believable. But again, especially with social media, the data is quite readily available once the strategy has gone live. So what was the result of this? What kind of uptick engagement was there? How many followers maybe? What's the kind of before and after, as we saw in the previous portfolio? Would be fantastic to see as well. Generally, if we go back to the portfolio site, my feeling is that this person has this broader scope. And one potential criticism is, as I mentioned, it's kind of positive that she was focused on the games industry. In the portfolio section, there didn't seem to be so much that was obvious that was directly tied to the games industry, and I think that's obviously quite important. But yeah, it has this kind of broad scope. So for a smaller company just starting off, could be a really interesting person to bring on as a freelancer or a hire, but doesn't show to me this level of kind of specificity that we saw to a larger extent in the previous portfolio, and definitely something as your career develops that I'd really encourage that you show off these kind of deep expertise in one particular area in your portfolio. Okay, so that wraps it up for that portfolio. So I'll come back to the blog post, and then you can tell me what I'm obliged to do next. Okay, so let's click through to Adelina's project. So this is, I guess, a little bit different to the portfolios that we looked at before, in the sense that this really focuses on a single case study or single project, rather than the entire portfolio introducing the person, the digital marketer behind those projects. There are a few sentences here describing the background, so Adelina's background, that she used to be a safety advisor, has made this career change into digital marketing, graduated back in 2021. Why she decided to take the CareerFoundry digital marketing program, and then what she most enjoyed about it and what she most enjoyed about creating this portfolio project, and then what she wants to do in the future, and that's to get this focus or develop this focus on branding and content creation. So more, by the sounds of it, on the kind of non-technical side of marketing, as opposed to the more kind of rigidly performance or analytics side. So that's super interesting background. Let's dive into the project itself and see what it's all about. If we scroll down a little bit further, we can see that the portfolio project itself is focused on a product launch for a company called Green Gatherings. Product launch is an interesting area to choose because I think it's very different to building a channel. If you're building organic traffic to a blog, you build a kind of system that then just repeats and recurs. And with the product launch, it's a little bit different because you have to produce content that increases awareness dramatically, and also inherently within it, it kind of increases excitement around this product release. And I think that's in many ways a lot more difficult to do than building out these systems. First of all, to give some context, it looks like she has a brand overview, a few words about Green Gatherings, even its position as a company, and apparently what they do is produce a product line of sustainable and biodegradable picnic supplies. Then we have her approach, so the fact that it started with market analysis, this is fantastic. Shows that she's acquainted with the process, laying down the foundation of strong qualitative and quantitative research. Again, a few more words about market research, the target market, which seems pretty specifically defined. And also defining, and this is super interesting, the ideal distribution channels or the most popular platforms, because this immediately tells us, okay, if we're going to launch a product and we're going to produce marketing collateral, which are the channels that we want to go live on? And already she's starting to shape this early on in the case study. Then talking about some secondary or third-party research, industry research. Obviously, you don't have to do everything yourself. There's already, for almost everything, there's already a ton of information carried out by different companies, different institutions and things, which is already public on the internet that you can go to give you that foundation. Then we have the UVP, unique value proposition of Green Gatherings, which is to make biodegradable products that are accessible, fun, and give back to Mother Nature and are perfect for picnics and outdoor gatherings. Brand guidelines and messaging, so this is all very clear, nice color scheme that obviously harmonizes with their UVP. Then some brand messaging information, buyer personas, so this is building on the target market to personify it a little bit to help with the creation of those marketing materials. Then we have what looks like the kind of marketing materials that she then produced, a long-form blog article, for example. And what's very nice, also a conversion point on that article is so often missed when people write blog articles. The whole point of writing a blog article is to bring traffic. Next question is, what do you do with the traffic? Often those two areas of a company are siloed, so someone writes the blog, it brings traffic, but then nothing is done with that traffic because the page itself isn't conversion optimized. So there's some good thought going into this. Product landing page, so this is detailing the product itself, an email campaign to go with it, and even a keyword analysis as well. Difficulty score is a super important metric and an interesting metric to look at. It essentially tells you the amount of competition there is on certain keywords, but it's also relatively easy to get metrics on keyword volume and things like that, and how those two interplay is quite important. So that would have been nice to see here to get a more holistic perspective. And even here, this is quite impressive looking at technical SEO metrics by the looks of it. Before and after, it looks like technical SEO optimization. So this is, again, is really broad reaching. Page view report. The spike maybe is the point of the product launch. So as I mentioned, that's kind of what you're aiming for with a product launch. It'd be nice to have a little bit more context as to whether that's the case, with a bit more text to explain that. Here actually we have one example, welcome email, an automated email flow, I guess. And the emails themselves, again, really nicely branded. Okay, here, as I mentioned earlier on with the first portfolio, there's actually some reflections. So what would have, if she were to go back and do this again, then what would she do differently? I think these kind of reflections, whether you're in an interview or in your portfolio and things, really show a level of kind of responsiveness and willingness to learn that's only becoming more important in our hires. It's something that we really, really look for. So if you can demonstrate that upfront in your portfolio, something really, really positive. And then a project report as well. So really showing that she's looking back on the different deliverables, what was delivered, and to what level of success. And off the back of that, some recommendations. So this is super, super comprehensive. And obviously is really a kind of an end-to-end campaign that it looks like she did individually, which in itself is impressive as well. Again, I think if I were to add to this a few explanations to help out with the visuals would be good. And then finally, also, if possible, some of those success metrics, some of those metrics to give them more context So what worked well? So what were the kind of email open rates? What were the purchases off the back of that? If it's possible to give that information, then it's always good to really detail the impact. But otherwise, a really interesting project, and I think it shows a really broad range of knowledge across digital marketing, so perfect for someone that's kind of looking for that junior stroke entry level role and is now choosing which area they would like to specialize in. That brings us to the end of the portfolio reviews. As you can see, those 3 principles that I mentioned before are pretty important: to be purposeful, to be specific, to be clear. I think the 3 examples here did a really nice job, but you can see if you keep those 3 principles in mind when you're developing your portfolio, then you might avoid some pitfalls. So if you want to check out those portfolios and more, then check the link to the blog post in the description below. If you're just starting out in digital marketing and are unsure if it's the career for you, we have a free short course that I recommend you sign up to. And if you're at the stage already that you know it's the career for you, you're ready to start building out your portfolio, then the full CareerFoundry digital marketing program is perfect because it takes you from beginner to job ready, and we help you land a job too. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you want more tips on how to build out your digital marketing portfolio, then just let us know in the comments below. And last but not least, check out this video here to find out how I would start over in the digital marketing industry if I was starting from scratch all over again.